So in my previous video, I mentioned how I found 3 separate entries about the Veldigun in the lore. And while that was technically the truth, I neglected to mention the 3 other entries in the various Discord messages I found during or after my research for my Veldigun video. Within those many messages, I found a story about a location referred to as Lankmann's Asylum, and began looking deeper into the topic for this video. So that's what we're looking into today. I've got my static microphone, my Scratch program, and my Google Slideshow presentation. So let's look into the story of Lankmann's Asylum. Before we get into the story, I think it's important that I explain the universe the story takes part in. Dreams of an Insomniac is a story written entirely by Pastra, and is completely separate from the ARG that is currently active on his channel. Despite this, DOAI, as I'll be referring to it as for the rest of this video, is still having lore developed every now and then. So I've taken a look at all the information I could find, and I believe that I can give an accurate representation of this story and DOAI as a whole. With that out of the way, onto the Asylum. Let's begin with the characters involved in this story. The story of Lankmann's Asylum revolves around 3 characters. The first Veldigun pair, Clyde and Winfrey, and the main antagonist, Lankmann. Let's begin with the Veldigun pair. Now for the uninitiated who are unaware of what the Veldigun are, I've done a recap video on them before, but I'll give you the cliff notes here. The Veldigun are a species of monster that consume and absorb the memories, personality, and minds of their victims, leaving nothing but a mindless husk in their place, capable of only thinking the last thought they had over and over again for the rest of their life. The Veldigun begin as nothing more than a puddle of liquid, but develop sentience in a physical body after consuming a human. They always travel in pairs and will avoid separation if they can help it. Additionally, the Veldigun have the ability to both use the voice of their previous victims and cause visual hallucinations such as flashing lights, alternating colors, and auditory hallucinations in their victims. Hold on to that piece of information. It will be relevant later. Lankmann, on the other hand, is very different from the Lankmann we know from Pastra's ARG. In DOAI, Lankmann is a human scientist obsessed with researching the Veldigun after witnessing the death of his father at the hands of Clyde, and the death of his brother's family at the hands of another Veldigun named Simon. Lankmann is in charge of an asylum for the mentally unstable, known as Lankmann's Asylum. As for his physical characteristics... Wait, what's Lankmann's height again? I'm sorry. I'll take you seriously when you don't need an adult to go with you to see your point. Alright, let's get back on track. Our story begins not with Lankmann's Asylum, but rather with Winfrey. While Winfrey's partner Clyde was hibernating, Winfrey went out to hunt in a nearby forest and came across William Winfrey, a struggling musician and recovering schizophrenic who had only been released from Lankmann's Asylum 3 years prior. Winfrey did not hesitate in attacking William, and consumed his mind before William had a chance to react, draining him of all his memories and personality. The next morning, William was found in a state of mental decay, muttering, "It heard my music, it stole my voice," over and over again, having fallen victim to the psychological damage caused by Winfrey's actions. After the consumption of William's mind, Winfrey inherited his name and his obsession with music and art. This obsession led him to all corners of the world, sneaking into museums, concert halls, and any other location where he could fuel his obsession. However, as Winfrey continued to claim new victims, William slowly became more and more obsessed with the human mind, and would regularly consume the minds of humans he believed he could learn from. Unfortunately, Winfrey's actions would not go unnoticed for long, as each mind he consumed left a babbling husk in its wake. Rumors soon began to spread of a monster causing a madness epidemic, and eventually, those rumors hit the wrong ears. Rumors of Winfrey's existence soon reached Lankmann, who traveled out to the village near Winfrey's hunting grounds to organize a search party, gathering together a few loyal followers to hunt down the beast in the woods. During their search, Winfrey attacked the party with the intent to eliminate the threat to his obsessions. Unfortunately for Winfrey, the mind of William recognized Lankmann and panicked, forcing Winfrey into a state of shock. With Winfrey's guard down, Lankmann's crew easily captured him, and prepared him for transport to the asylum. Winfrey had always been averse to approaching Lankmann's Asylum. Something in William's mind had instilled a sense of fear in him, and Winfrey was about to find out why. From the moment he arrived at the asylum, Lankmann was performing tests on him day in and day out, testing his physical characteristics, as well as investigating the insanity Winfrey seemed to cause in all his victims. Lankmann learned much about the Veldigun during Winfrey's time in the asylum, but it was only when Lankmann learned the Veldigun's ability to consume and alter the minds of others that he became truly obsessed, using Winfrey's abilities to alter Lankmann's appearance in the asylum and the minds of all its residents. Lankmann also began to use Winfrey as a tool to consume the defective parts of a patient's mind, in a treatment Lankmann would call Alteration Therapy. Unfortunately, this treatment would prove to be unreliable in its results, as only 2 of the 6 recipients benefited from the treatment, those 2 being Jack Walker and Klaus Kruger. The others were not so lucky, prisoners to their own thoughts, forced to replay the same image in their heads over and over again. A doctor straight out of hell, driving them insane with a wide smile on his face. Lankmann would continue to test and refine its alteration therapy for months, with no end in sight. However, his actions would soon come back to haunt him on October 31st. After a long day of testing and experimentation, Lankmann made his way back to his quarters. But something was different. The walls seemed to be changing color, and the sound of the wind outside and the occupants of his asylum were absent. But the long night of testing had weakened Lankmann's mind, and by the time he put the pieces together, it was too late. In an instant, all the walls changed back to normal, and the sound of the wind came blasting into the room as Lankmann came face to face with the Veldigun who had ripped his father away from him, awakened from hibernation to rescue his partner. Lankmann knew what would happen if he was caught, and attempted to flee from the Veldigun before him. But it was too late to turn back, as Lankmann met his end just as his father had. Consumed by the Veldigun he had spent his life hunting down. With the knowledge of Winfrey's whereabouts acquired from Lankmann's mind, Clyde freed Winfrey from his confinement and went to leave the asylum. But Winfrey had changed in his time in Lankmann's asylum, driven mad by the minds he had consumed and the pain Lankmann had caused him during his experiments. Enraged, Winfrey went on a killing spree, consuming every mind in the asylum he could find. Once the asylum was still, populated solely by the husks left in the pair's wake, Clyde and Winfrey left Lankmann's asylum, never to return. But the pair did not leave unscathed. Months of experimentation and testing had destroyed Winfrey's mind, driving him to lunacy. And once Winfrey's rampage in Lankmann's asylum was over, the hundreds of minds Winfrey had consumed combined into a cacophony of voices too loud and numerous for Winfrey's mind to handle, and he slowly descended further and further into madness, as all his memories and dreams were slowly drowned out and erased by all the victims residing in his head. Left to wander the earth with nothing but the company of his own decaying mind for the rest of his days. Clyde did not escape consequence either. After their escape from Lankmann's asylum, something began to change in Clyde. He became more sadistic, manipulative, power-hungry, using the voice of Lankmann to scare his fellow Veldigun into submission. And as Lankmann's influence continued to grow inside Clyde, the Clyde all the Veldigun had come to know was all but erased. Lankmann may have died, but he'd had his revenge. Clyde wasn't dead, but he would never be the same. And that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a ton of fun making it, and I couldn't have done it without the help of Pastra's community. I'd like to give a special thanks to Promise of Reunion for helping me get my facts straight, and for helping me with some of the dates in this story. It's a huge help, and I really appreciate it. For now, that's all the major content I found on Dreams of an Insomniac, so you can expect my next upload to be on Pastra's You May Nikki video. However, while I've got you all here, I'd like to direct your attention to another YouTuber by the name of Gaming Age. He makes videos on Pastra's content that are pretty similar to my own, along with other horror-based content. He just dropped an insane video recapping the Pastra ARG that goes far more in depth than I did. The link to his channel is in the description, go check him out. Anyways, with that out of the way, have a good day, gentlemen.